because I've got the pause button on. She's right. Okay. It's the 2nd of May 1980.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Al. It's Alf, but it's Al Greenwood. And this is definitely the last interview I'm ever going to do on the waterfront. Now, okay, now listen, a few things I want to ask you now. First of all, about the 56 strike. Were you there in 56?
Yeah.
Well, tell us about it. You told me that you went to the country, or you went round talking, making speeches on the question of the strike with your microphone with your loudspeaker plugged into the car.
That's right.
And how long had you been on the waterfront?
6 years. Started in 50.
You started in 50. You were only, 22 when you started?
23.
23. So you must have been having family responsibilities by that time.
Was I ever? Yeah.
Did you have kids?
Yeah, we had 2 then.
Yeah.
Kerry and Young.
So the strike was a 6-week strike, a fairly big strike, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty rugged. That was no one had any money either, especially me. But I painted the old man's house for a good few bucks, you know.
This house?
In between, no, he used to live up the street.
Oh, yeah.
And must spend most of the time just running. They had vegetables and, you know, they had a good setup with, you go and get a bit of meat, a bit of this and a bit of that. You know.
They had a bit of strike pay. Did they have strike pay?
No strike pay.
It was a pretty bad time, wasn't it? Because since about 54, the ship owners had really been, on the attack, with the...
Yeah, there
was a Cold War period too.
There wasn't much work either at that particular time. From about 52 onwards, after the post-war Russia stuff, things got quiet. You could go 3 weeks without a job in some ways.
Like the 30s.
Well, it wasn't as bad as that, I don't think.
Yeah.
But, you get 12 bob a day appearance money, which wasn't much really. But you could...
£3 a week. What would your earnings have been now?
Well, I don't know. We reckon we were lucky to get 12 a week.
That was the period I seem to remember. I was pregnant with Richard Peter. It was now, must be 1950. They brought in the £10 basic wage to come in. So I just hadn't gone up a lot between then and 50.
But it didn't
so you were probably getting about, yes, probably 10 you wouldn't be getting less than the £10 basic
No, but you didn't get much because some weeks you could only get, there was no minimum that you could earn. If you went twilight, say Monday night, you get 1 day in, then you get the sack or finish, Then you could go to the following week without getting a job. So you get 1 day's pay plus 4 days appearance money.
You had appearance money. Have you always had appearance money since you've been in?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that case couldn't be as bad as the other, and you didn't get any.
That's
But
right.
the other hand, it wasn't much with the basic wage 10 quid. If you'd been getting £3 appearance money, you were still getting about a third of the basic wage.
That's right, yeah. It was pretty hard a lot of times because you had to go back at the end of the roster. You'd wait for the roster to come up, bang, you go to work. I was floating and I wasn't in the game. Then you go back on the end of the board, column 24 or something like that, and you'd go in and they'd get the column 8 or something, and that'd be the finish of the day. Then you just go in, register for your appearance money, and next day the same thing had happened. They never left you home, even with the press and radio pickup, they still brought you to work, and you sat in that compound until all the blood was picked up, and you went home again.
Actually, at that time, of course, too, they were trying to, the ship owners had put on a big offensive, they were trying to go back to picking their own labour and that sort of thing.
Oh, the old bull system.
Yeah, they were trying to go back to they were also had applied to the ports to have the gang rotary system put aside, so they could put the gangs where they wanted.
Yeah.
So, in fact, the 56, and of course, they hadn't long taken the scabs in. Had they taken the scabs in?
Yes, yeah, they were gone.
They were there when you came.
Yes.
It didn't try anything, did they?
Or something like
Yeah,
that.
I see.
Yeah.
So So in fact, it just seemed to me that they just got the scabs in time, or they could have, it would have been interesting. I wonder if the scabs would have struck in 56.
I don't think they would have, myself. I think they would have gone on strike. I don't think they'd have opened their books unless the government forced them to.
Yeah, would have probably would have done.
Because they'd had enough, I think, the fellas that couldn't get in the Federation and had joined the Queen's Service were very sorry they did it, I think.
Well, it hadn't stayed with them, hasn't it?
Yeah, and they weren't the originals anyway, but they couldn't get in the Federation. A lot of fellas would put on the Federation, those fellas, not us, but those fellas would put, because when they had their chance to get in, they couldn't get in. They would only open the book so far, and they wouldn't let everybody that was working on the ward, second preference men and so on. So when the government took over and the gang system started, they couldn't get into the Federation. So rather than go to war and get shot, they decided it would be a good idea to be in the Queen's Service.
Oh, you think the war took some more people into the Queen's?
Oh, of course, yeah.
I know that, that many of them went in the late 30s. See, Arthur Neville joined in 36. So I thought Arthur Neville had a bit of a rough go, actually, because
The group was terrifically strong.
they were very strong in Melbourne, more than anywhere else.
Well, they had San Maria pushing them on. He still pushed them on.
One of his... Oh, the 56 strike. Now, was this a... were you... How did you get involved? By this time, were you an active unionist?
Yeah, I was the vice president of the Job Delegates Association.
Ah, so you were a delegate.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And Tom said that Healy's great genius was that he got people rank and file doing things. And this is something you don't often see in a union. Was this very strong in that strike? Were there a lot of people taking part?
There were a lot of people, but this was the same people all the time. There's all the JDA people and the Coms,
left-wing Labour.
The Socialist left and so on, were the main ones. You didn't see many of the others around the union rooms at that time, only when the handouts were on.
Yeah, I see. So, well, it was, but at the same time, would your Job Delegates Association be a little bit like shop stewards? Would you be sort of similar things? Do they have? Yeah.
That's right.
So you'd become. Did you have a Labour background?
No.
You mean saying you grew up in Footscray and your family didn't vote Labour?
That's right.
Oh, good gracious me! What next?
Very strong Liberal, my old man.
Was he?
Oh, yeah, still is.
You must be an annoyance to him.
Yeah, we never agreed on anything in our lives. So the politics had to be included.
Oh, I see. And did you sort of get your politics on the waterfront, or had you had politics before you came? Or
Never took any interest in it until I went to it.
Yeah,
then it became more interesting and more you get involved,
it was more relevant to your life, wasn't
Well,
it?
that's right, yeah.
Particularly with the government trying to put Healy in jail and to railroad you all back to those other conditions. I suppose it really
Yeah, well, it became essential to be interested in the union, and the union was interested in you as well, so it made a difference. A lot of unions, I don't think, take much interest in their members as long as they pay their fees. And they don't even go and vote for it.
Yeah. Well, all they want is your vote in an election.
That's true.
To me, it's interesting. One of the things I hadn't realised in this is one of the rights that the Waterside Workers Union has always had. No other union has it that I know of, was to control the labour. In other words, in other places you get a job and then you go and join the union. But on the waterfront you join the union and they won't take you. You don't get the job.
That's right.
You see, so that was one of those things that historically was a historical accident, I suppose, but has been, and when you look at these attacks on the union, all the time it's had in them that the employer wants the right to pick his labour.
They forced them in on the finish though. They forced the union to take anyone they nominated.
Do they have to now?
They did when was it, about 1970, before permanency in the law. They couldn't get anyone on the waterfront. So no one wanted to work there. still at the front of the union to get through, but people weren't nominating.
People weren't nominating for work on the
Work
waterfront.
on the waterfront, so
The 70s.
it was before that.
Because I was going to say.
Yeah, the time gets away from it.
Yeah.
Or it was in the 60s, because, yeah, it'll be in the early 60s.
And what is it today, though? The union controls the waterfront today, don't they? You've got to get...
Yes, well, I don't know.
The books are all closed and everything.
anyway.
Yes.
But if there'd be that many trying to get jobs, I think the union would be able to control.
Yes,
Like
but in
they
those
used
days
to.
when there weren't enough coming on,
That's right. There was
then
no
the
applicants.
ASIA had,
Yeah.
had that right. Yes, because when you look at it, most of here, a terrible lot of this following the sun was done
That's right.
to stop them, forcing them to pick up more men. You know, and Healy used to appeal to people to go to Queensland. To go, Tom said he always went to the apple season because they asked them to go, and that was actually what the 56 during the 56 strike. Did you
No,
just?
only around the city, all around in the areas that I knew, Southern Cairn.
Oh, outside lunchtime meetings.
Yeah, lunchtime meetings.
Get support. Get any hostility.
We never had any hostiles, but we didn't get much. They weren't very interested, really.
Yeah, well, workers, lunchtime, they don't particularly want to listen to people making speeches. Did you raise? Did you manage to raise dough?
Not very much. Some put in, some didn't. No one was really interested, Everybody, they always come to the Wharfies when they're on strike and what this and what that. And the Wharfies look after most other unions. But the other unions weren't too keen on helping the Wharfies. They listened, and everyone gave a little clap on a chair and said, "Good, yeah, mate, now we're taking up a collection. We got a few bucks, or pounds and whatever."
It probably wasn't bad. Actually, it was a big thing for a bloke, like a working bloke like you, to get up and make a speech. Did you feel nervous?
Oh no, I didn't.
You didn't mind. No, a lot of it was a very big thing for a lot of working men to actually do that.
It was we had a sort of a basic speech, which we sort of wrote, parrot fashion, and then we had Italian fellows with us and Maltese and so on, and then they all gave the same speech in all their different languages.
You mightn't have thought you did much good, but it was a big thing. It was for working blokes to sort of to be able to learn to organise and learn to make speeches and things.
You get a lot of that in the JDA,
Well, that's right. You already had experience. You weren't raw off the bloody wharf.
That's right. It would have been difficult, because I'm not a good speaker, but it would have been difficult for a lot of fellas that did it too, to get up in front of a mob of faces all looking up at you, It sort of stuns them, but they did all right,
My idea of hell, just to speak of fact again, means I've spoken a lot in my time, and I never ever got to like it. I always felt you were interfering with our lunchtime, you were making a gig of yourself, standing out there, and I never could bear it. I hated it. And what about, did you remember during the 56 strike when the Wharfies occupied the Herald building?
Yeah.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't.
No, Tom was there. He was talking about this bloke standing up on the hot press making a speech and his feet were burning all the time. No, that must have been rather a funny sensation too, because Tom said all the journalists were typing away, pretending you weren't there. He said they had 10 Wharfies turn around and say, "What are you writing about the Wharfies, mate?"
I remember that when they went up there.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, well, fine. Tom's got a whole list of things here to ask you. Now, look, one thing, the time I was talking to a respectable political person like Tom, you tend to get sort of the political person's viewpoint all the time. He says things like, we had a hell of a struggle over this or that. But now, for instance, things like permanency, Tom says we had a hell of a struggle, we got that through. But I gather there were a lot of people who didn't, who opposed permanency.
Oh, yes.
What were the sort of arguments that would be against it?
Well, I just didn't like the thought of working in the one place at the one time. So the nature of the industry was terrific, really. I enjoyed it more then because, one day you'd be with one lot of blokes, next day another lot, next day another lot. When permanency came, everybody thought it was the beginning and the end. They wouldn't get enough overtime. It was it's like same as when the short shifts were voted in. They said we'll starve to death, you know.
Were you there then?
No,
Yeah, that
the
was
short
before you
shifts
were
were in when I came there.
That was what, 8-hour shifts instead of 12-hour shifts, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I see,
some
because you used to get 4 hours overtime on that.
That's
on that
right.
12-hour shift.
They would break it to an 8, a 6 and a 7. 12 or 6 hours instead of. They used to work from 8 till 7, 7 till 8. What a day, you know. And the other, when they break it down, it was from 8 to 5, 5 till 11, and 12 till 7, which is good, you know.
Yeah, well, you see, it's strange. I was just reading this book about Jim Healy, you know, and it said that in Sydney, this was when the blooming, consolidated pay came in. They had bloody protest marches on the Sydney waterfront. They seemed to protest about every change that happened.
Yeah, sort of reactionary, a lot of them, you know, the old blokes especially. They used to have to chase their pay all over the joint. They go, there's so-and-so company to get it, another company, and consolidated pay was a great idea.
Yeah, well, Tom said, Jim Healy said that the separate pays suited the boozers. Now, Tom and I would talk about it, and Tom said he thinks what he meant was that you used to get a chit to take to this company, and a chit to take to that company, but anyone could go and collect it, and they used to hand their chit over to a money lender who would give them, say, 5 quid, and then it was for 7 quid, then they'd go and collect the 7. Did that sort of thing happen on the Melbourne waterfront that you know of?
No,
you weren't on there at the time.
No, it was always consolidated pay all the time. That's before my time.
Was there a lot of boozers and gamblers? You know, was there a sort of a subculture of boozing and gambling went on?
There was early, you know, but Harry Neal culled them out slowly but surely.
Who was he?
He was the chairman of the ASIA.
After
H.G.
Braddock?
Neal.
After
Braddock, yeah.
Called him the Führer. Was that
that's it,
yeah.
He's the arbitration court commissioner now, H.G. Neal.
Is he? And how did he get rid of them? How did they get rid of them?
They just tore up their dockets. They had a record card, you know, you pull out the card and say, oh, you've been left the job without permission, you've been this and that and so on, you know, one more offence, and they'd suspend them for a couple of days, and one more offence, and tear. And of course, our advocate at the time was Tom Mills's mate, you know, his name?
Jim Saunders?
No.
Oh, Charlie Young?
No, before Charlie. He used to go into the...
he was no good, was he?
Oh.
He was a bloody DLP.
He wasn't a very good advocate.
No, he wasn't a DLP.
Anyway, Harry used to just tear their dockets up, you know, after 2 or 3 offences.
Yeah, what would you be caught boozing? Would you have what sort of offences?
If you got caught drinking, you were off the planet. That was the finish. You were gone.
Caught drinking on the wharf.
Caught drinking on the wharf. That was the finish. That's how. What's her name? Got finished on the waterfront. The Texan, Billy Longley.
Oh, he was a crook, wasn't he?
Yeah. But he got caught drinking, and that's how they got rid of Billy.
Gee. And was this always the case?
So if you got caught drinking, that's it.
I see. Still today, is it?
Yes, ever since I was.
I see. And what about and
thieving was the same. If you got caught thieving, smoking, you'd get fined. But if you
only on the Melbourne waterfront, no other bloody
waterfront
in Australia.
And if you fronted more than 2 or 3 times for that, Harry'd want to tear up your docket.
Would he? Oh, I see.
But he got rid of a terrific amount of plague wars, they call them.
The ones they made into foreman, I hear.
Oh,
they made the bastards into foreman.
Yeah, well, a lot of them they did too. A lot of them, because they knew all the leaks and all the tricks and, you know. Well, a mate, Max, he in a gang with me, he used to go up to Hotham, 5 o'clock, you know, as soon as he put his number in, up to the Hotham till 6. And when he came back, they'd be looking, everyone would be looking for him, foreman and everything, and he'd have a planker where he'd pick up a piece of dunnage, you know, and he'd walk around the corner between 4 and 5 north. I've just gone and got that dunnage, you know. Yeah, that was his cut. Wait
a minute, what time did you start work? 5?
5, yeah.
And what would he nick off for an hour?
Yeah, and he came back. The pub was shutting at 6.
Oh, I see. Well, then didn't the gang get sick of it?
Oh, well, you know.
He'd be all right when he was there.
They took time, turns, you know. Everybody had a little bit of a play.
Where would you have to be? I mean, you couldn't go to the Hotham. You'd have to be in which wharf in the river there?
Oh, in the, you know, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 north, Picnic Point, you know.
Yeah, I see.
The Hotham was only a hop, stick and a jump up the road, you know.
I see. And was there a lot of work going on those wharves when you came
Oh
along?
yeah, they were pretty busy out there. Hollyman's used to use the south side, and the Melbourne Company, Howard Smith, Union Steamship Company, all the ships that weren't very big, you know, they were always up there.
Now, just a minute.
You know?
Oh, but even better. Okay. Yes, it is. I'm not used to this machine. I see. So when you came on, when did that part of the wharf decline? When did they start, fall into disuse? That part.
They pulled it all down to build a new terminal in about 1961, 62.
It would have made a difference to the pubs, then, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it did because there wasn't.
That one's closed down.
That's
right.
right.
On the corner, the Hotham, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tom always calls it the Autumn. And I never knew
The pub used to go off. To talk about Snip's Corner, if you went in for a quick drink before you go back for lunch, there was 10 ex-Wharfies there, legitimate. Hey, how you going? Give us 4 bottles, man. In the finish, you like, it wasn't worthwhile going into the place.
Oh, I see. Oh, the 56, right. There was a drink gambling. And then, so, on the time you've been on, that this would be, I suppose, since permanency, since the gang system, the really crooked element would be going out, wouldn't they? Because they'd have other interests.
That's right.
Interfere with their interests.
That's right, yeah. There was always race day, we say,
What's those race days?
There's
used to be Wednesday
races,
at John Reed.
Races today at, they look it up in the paper, yes, we'll go there, So, that'll be there to go, Wednesday afternoon, the races.
And what would happen if they'd been picked up in the morning? Would they just piss off?
Yeah.
What wouldn't they get? Do the foreman report them absent?
Oh, well, they'd cover it. Yeah, mostly they got covered,
Yeah, I see.
You'd know as a race day would say they came in with a nice white grey hat on, a suit, to work on a sulphur boat or something,
Well, they weren't stopping. Yeah. So there, and also was there much in your day? Were there 2-up schools and things around? Was there gambling actually on the job?
The only 2-up, they played a lot of solo. But
they used to gamble when they were playing. They didn't play just to pass the time.
Oh no, there was a money job.
Yes.
But the mayor of Fitzroy used to run the main games.
Was that wasn't Curly Brooks, was it?
No, it wasn't Curly. McMahon.
Yeah. Where were they?
Anywhere.
Oh, there wasn't a place where there
No. Anywhere there was a job with a start to rain or anything, he had to come to the H&T Dice or the Pennies or something, Sandy McMahon. And down the pier was up in the mess room in the pier, Station Pier. When it was raining. Dice, pennies. Always on payday, of course.
Really?
Oh, well, it wasn't, it wasn't. It was no good having it on bloody Wednesday. No one had any money.
I'll say. Of course, this is a little bit like droving or anything. Anywhere where there's a lot of waiting around.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll find gambling.
Yeah, sheer boredom. Mate.
That's right. Yeah, well, the same, I believe, firemen sitting around the bloody fire brigade waiting for a fire,
gambling. That's right.
Same with my son used to work on the railways. He's a fireman. He said waiting around, because half the time you're on call. He'd never played a game of cards his life. He was always reading a book, and they all reckoned he was very strange. He just refused. He wasn't interested in cards, And I just realised, because Tom was talking about
Solo on the water.
Solo was the favourite game. Was it better than poker?
No, I don't think I have seen an odd game of poker, but mostly they play solo or red aces.
That's interesting.
I got caught twice by the one cop in the name.
What?
While I was playing cards in the room. And he never booked me. As he went past the first time, he went, hey. So, and then
you put it
he
out.
walked up and came back the other one. I lit it up again. He just shook his head. Oh, he didn't want to pitch me for sure,
Tom said there was a here that mate who went back to Tasmania. He was sick of getting pinched
for smoking
here. He said you can smoke in bloody Tasmania.
Yeah, it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
It's that bloody petty.
Yeah. it was a legal conviction. So I mean, you have to go to court.
Empty shed, you could be in an empty shed smoking and get finished, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's got a sign up, no smoking. So,
is it still the same?
yeah. Yeah, but it's
probably everywhere now.
It's pretty good in the terminal where we are because, we just want to, no one's ever smoking.
It's not dangerous, is it?
No, only you don't go anywhere in front of the cargo.
No, that's right.
When you don't light up alongside a class 3 in front of it.
Yeah, interesting. Well, now look, what about Jim Healy? Now, everyone, it's funny. It's hard to get a picture of what he's like. Was he a character? I mean, what sort of a bloke was he?
Well, I only
Yeah.
knew
What
Jim
sort of bloke did he
because I
come
saw him
across on the stage?
Oh, he came across as a big thinker, Jim. He wasn't that good at talker. He wasn't
quick and sharp and.
No, he wasn't a Bob Hawke or anything. The way
he wasn't even a Ted Ford.
No, well,
Ted's funny.
Oh yeah, Ted's full of.
Ted's a racecourse urging.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. But Healy was very quiet spoken fellow, but everything he said made sense. He was one of those. He was before his time. He could foresee things. He was always for permanency. He was all the things that Healy was for have come to pass, and they've all been good. Extra holidays. Permanency was one of his big things.
Rotation of
hatches.
Redundancy. Was he into redundancy?
I don't think we had any redundancy when Jim was there.
He did foresee, and he
foresaw
that there was going to be, the industry was going to be mechanised.
Yeah. Well, that's why he was so far in front of it. There's another fellow on the wharf that was pretty far-sighted.
McCool, you mean?
Yeah, McCool. Yeah, McCool.
Within the same breed.
Surprised you because McCool, Ned's a sort of he reminds me of Teddy Bully's style.
Oh, does he? Much more of a larrikin.
Yeah, but Ned was a big thinker, but he didn't appeal to the. I don't think he ever got a union position.
No, I don't think he has. He's still standing.
But he's a big thinker, Ned. Maybe he's not articulate enough,
Healy, obviously, he doesn't strike me as being like a character, as you say, what strikes me is people like Healy, people like Hawke and Teddy Bull and them, they put themselves over as personalities. You know what I mean? They're con men, in a way. Not in a way, they're con men. But Healy seems to me not to have been projecting his personality and building himself up big. There doesn't seem to have been a cult of the personality which he built up around himself.
That's right. He reminds me of one of those English prime ministers, the one, the Labor, what was that Labor prime minister?
One before last.
He used to wear the raincoat.
How long ago?
Harold Wilson.
Harold Wilson.
He used to light his pipe up, Jim.
Yeah, put it inside of his mouth.
Yeah, and away he'd go. And he'd tell you, quiet. It was quiet, but he wouldn't be bustled. He wouldn't go fast. He'd speak so that everybody could understand exactly what he was getting at. He could put a point over very well, but he didn't do it with any dramatic flair. If Bob was doing it, he's my pin-up for Bob.
Yeah.
Bob would really
ham it up.
That's right, but Jim never. Jim just shallow on something, and he was very good.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Yes, he seems to have been. It was a bloody terrible shame that he died so young.
Yeah, well, he wasn't that old, was he?
63.
Was he? Is that all he was?
Yeah, he's. Mind you, he had, I suppose he only had a couple of years. Did you have to retire at 65?
Yeah, not those.
Not those days, because after Wharfies didn't have to retire, did
That's
they?
right, gee, some of those blokes went on for years. And you look at old Matt, he was 100 when he retired.
Had he been doing much?
Geelong Wharfie, he was a permanent amenities man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
right. But, I can remember old Sightsy riding his bike. He was over 80.
Which one is he?
On the coal. Riding his bike to work.
Little
Yeah,
Sean Osborne.
yeah.
Noel Kernahan did a picture of it.
That's-
Actually,
yeah.
it was in that Big Country. It was, it's going to be in the book. Yeah.
Precisely, yeah. I can remember him riding with his billy on his handlebars. He was over 80 then, riding to work on the coal can,
Yeah, Tom said that whether Sir Healy had the biggest funeral
Huey.
ever held. Huey Sykes, yeah. Tom said that Jim Healy had the biggest funeral ever held in Sydney. There was 10,000 people.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because he was pretty well respected, even, all factions listened to Jim because Jim had it.
Yeah. Yes, he seems to have been quite a remarkable because it was even Strang falls over himself to say what a marvellous fellow Jim Healy was. Mind you, I don't know how much of it was because he was
Well, I
talking.
never heard him raise his voice, Jim, really. He never shouted or screamed out or belted the table or carried on. He just put his points over, and he got a lot of opposition, of course, because there was naturally.
Yeah, but he was very.
Yeah, well, he was a common. The opposition didn't like his. But he's logical. His logic was too good for him. He was just that far ahead of everybody else. But he was a terrific loss to the union.
Yes, he's actually, I think, probably one of the greatest trade union leaders Australia's ever had. And because of, this is very interesting that the waterfront, you see, all the other unions now are starting to worry about redundancy when it's happening.
Yeah.
Your union started worrying about redundancy before it happened.
Yeah, well, I don't remember much about redundancy
No.
because it never, I was
No,
never
but
thinking about it.
he was talking about, actually sort of redundancies come in since Healy, but it was this line apparently before he died, he was talking about this industry is going to be changed in 20 years, so you won't need another quarter of the men on the waterfront,
that's right.
and you've organised to make sure, in fact, that if the waterfront was going to change, they weren't going to just wipe the blokes off. I mean, it wasn't going to be, okay, we don't need you anymore, you ta-da.
That's right, yeah.
They managed, you get, I mean, when you consider it for a casual industry to get all that, sort of, what's the word, superannuation was quite incredible.
Yeah, they got a lot of them got out the golden handshake. Got out at the right time too.
Yeah.
I think that money's gone now. They've got to wait and build up again.
Yeah, well, Tom said when he went out it was something like 2,000 to 3,000
That's right.
quid or something, or dollars, yeah, so it was very little for a man like that, but now, he said it had just come in, which that he retired 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, well, it was obviously about 12, 13 years ago that it sort of started, they must have just started it. And so it isn't just a regular thing, it builds up what's in the fund, does it?
Yeah, that's right.
He was saying he'd like to take redundancy, but there's not money for it.
Got to build up a bit.
Yeah.
I think it comes from a levy that they strike on with so many cents a man out per person.
Yeah, I see.
Which is shit ain't crazy.
What do people do today? How do they spend idle time? Or don't you have to sit around on the waterfront these days? Time.
Well, I don't know much about idle time because I work much anymore.
Don't they have idle time?
They don't have it. They have it in the river still,
Yeah.
Patrick's and those places. But how they spend it? Everybody's a golfer. Everybody plays golf. Everybody's a fisherman. There's a million ways to spend.
But they don't have to stay in the terminal
No.
anymore. Anything you're not getting paid for, you don't have to come in. And the difference in the old days was you had to come in.
That's right. To get your appearance money, you had to come in. Now they're permanent employees. They're telephone men. They just ring them up and say you're not required tomorrow or the next day. Give us a ring on the next day.
Well, that must have been a great change in the waterfront because in the beginning you had to hang around the waterfront for jobs.
That's right.
I mean, you had to come to 2 pickups, and even if you came to the morning pickup and got a job, they might even start till say 1 o'clock or something. So you had to hang around a lot of time. That's been a lot of idle time spent on the waterfront.
Well, usually we used to get out when there was no jobs. We'd get in there at 8 in the compound. There was only one pickup then. And could be there up to 11 o'clock. Waiting to see how many columns went off, you know. But you always had to check in every day. They didn't say to you, come back next Wednesday week or something.
No, I see. And what did you do with yourself? That's when you played cards.
Well, yes, right. There was that many card skills in that joint, you couldn't get into the tables, you know.
Yeah, I see. So you played cards, gamble, whatever.
Yeah, just missed it, you know.
Could you go up to, well, you couldn't go up the pub, they were too far away, weren't
That's
they?
right, you had to wait there till those, you know, you could spend 3 hours in there for 12 o'clock, you know. And you knew you weren't going to get a job anyway.
I see. Did people bring their own grog onto the job? Did people bring bottled beer down, or was it?
No, well, there wasn't much anything like that in the compound.
No.
There was a cafe there, you know, a little snack bar.
Yeah, people didn't bring their own grog and have drinking skills. That wasn't allowed.
Not down there.
No, I see.
Too close to the Victoria Dock Coffee Shop. You know,
So you weren't allowed to drink down there?
not on Harbour Trust property anywhere.
Oh, not on Harbour Trust property anywhere. Ah, I see.
It's different in ships. You can go to a ship's bar because it's their ship. You know.
Well, then who would be able to stop you drinking in a hold? I mean, that's not Harbour Trust property.
Well, the Victoria Dock Police could stop you. The foreman could sack you.
You weren't, the police could stop you. It was illegal to drink in a ship's
Yes,
hold.
it was illegal to drink anywhere on Harbour Trust property.
Was that Harbour Trust property? Oh, the water.
Oh, I suppose so. But on the ship itself, I suppose it's supposed to be like a little consulate, isn't it? You know, the American ship is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But the Victoria Dock Police could pinch it for drinking, especially if it's cargo.
No, because that's theft, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
But even so, even if it was your own grog, you know,
Yeah, I see.
definitely against the rules.
So that really, the fact of
And the union don't protect you. Do they?
no, that's right. The fact of regular work, and so then so in the beginning you were hanging around the waterfront, especially if you lived out any distance, you stopped there for the afternoon pick-up, and so that'd be a time when you drank or played cards or things.
No, there was only one pickup.
Ah, yeah, but before your time.
Before.
Up to when there were 2 pickups, which were about 1940, I think. People used to hang around all day,
They'd have to,
killing time.
And possibly not get a job then.
That's right. And then it went down to you'd be there 3 hours a day. You had to kill time.
That's right.
Then now you don't have to kill any time at all.
That's right, because you're always working.
Well, you're either always working or you're at
Or
your
you're
home
a
playing
day
golf.
off. That's right. Yeah.
So in fact, the number of people hanging around the waterfront, boozing and playing cards and things must have gone down a lot.
That's right. It's disappeared.
So that's one whole change of life.
That's right. Permanency did that.
Permanency did that. Yeah.
Permanency, I don't know, I wasn't that keen on it because one of the ideas of permanency that the ship owner had that the Wharfie would be loyal, you become a company man, you know, now they thought that it would weaken the union. I'm pretty sure that was one of the reasons they agreed to permanency. Because they thought, he works for us, he'll look after us, we can do little things that he wouldn't normally do and so on. But quite the reverse was the case actually. They became stronger unionists because they were more concentrated in their smaller areas, into smaller groups, and their loyalty was still to the union, not to the ship owner, and it's still the same.
Do you think that the fact that there are better paid people and less well paid people on the waterfront is going to alter or allow divisions to come up between different sections of the union? Because one of the strengths of the union was that you were all more or less in the same position. Now there are better paid people working in the terminals, aren't there, than there are working on the conventionals. Will they have different interests?
I don't think so. There's always, as long as one man's got, say he's got 200, 300 a week, whatever he gets, there's always a struggle to bring the lower paid fella up to the higher. Always, when the union approaches anybody about money. It's always to bring the lower paid worker up. There's not much difference really. The fellas in the terminal get a bit more. They know what they're doing more than the fellas in the river. It works out pretty even over here.
No, then. Yeah.
I don't think it. No, I can't see that it would because so it's the union sort of first, last, and always with the fellas, and they know that the union's doing the very best. But I don't think it'll cause any divisions.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting. I think your beginnings are very important in an industry, even when your people there haven't had any experience of scabs or strikes and things. I think this sort of gets passed on, this question of what it was like, you know, in particularly a little closed area like the waterfront where it's a comparatively small group of men all close together.
I think it's forced them apart in one way that people don't know everyone like they used to.
No, Tom keeps saying you know everybody.
Yeah, but you don't now because there's that many new people started since you've been tucked away, would have been in the terminal for 10 years or something. And you know all the fellas in there, but you've forgotten a lot of people. And you see, like say, gee, I know that fella. But then there's a lot of people that you've never ever seen in your life, Wharfies. Never ever seen them in your life. Because they've come on later, gone into companies, and they don't circulate like they used to, you know.
That's I noticed that, you know, everybody who picks up those photographs I showed always knows everybody in those. You know, like,
yeah, well,
I know him, I know
that's
him.
right. We used to know, you know, well, because of the constant change around. You'd go to one gang one day, another gang the next day, and so on, you know. You'd get to know everybody.
Yeah, I dare say though that with the industry becoming much more settled and bigger and more monopolised, the permanency was an inevitable development.
It was, yes.
Because I see the meat workers today are trying to get permanents. And meat workers has traditionally been a knockabout
That's
job.
right,
You know,
yeah,
you go droving or do something in the east, you know, a bit like cane cutters.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, it's very interesting that you got that the union was going to permanency, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And it's just very interesting. Now, look, another interesting thing you said, I'm making notes when I've been going over your stuff, was first of all you talked about a chap in your gang, one of the police officers, who fell off a ladder. You said he had to lean backwards to get onto the ladder. Does that mean the ladders were stepped back?
Yeah. Like that.
Now, wait a minute, there was the deck. Now, was the ladder sloping?
No, it was straight down.
But it was stepped back, so you came down, then you had to sort of step underneath to get on it. Yeah, I was trying to, that's what Tom explained to me. He said he thought that was what you meant.
When you came down to the tween deck,
yeah,
you were lying hard, not backwards, but on an angle.
You had to put your feet under and
That's
grope
right.
for the rung.
That's exactly
well, you held
right.
on there and you were groping for
That's
the rung
right.
and you had to get, that's
Used
what he
to
said.
some of those ships.
Yeah, well, Tom said that, you don't have ladders anymore,
No.
you have staircase
That's
sort
right,
of thing. Yes, well, actually, I couldn't have got down one because that and the beams would have been too much for me. I couldn't have got on a beam.
See a lot of accidents happen to those beams and hatches.
What, of them being knocked out by the cargo?
No, but when you're just putting them on and
Taking them off?
Taking them off, yeah, because it was a terrible job, really.
Well, how did they fit in? What did they fit into on either sides? Was there a sort of a...
Yeah, well, see, there's a ridge runs up on the boom.
Yeah.
And the slab, usually they're numbered,
Yeah.
Port 1, port 2.
Oh, I see, they all go in certain places.
And they all just fit into the booms, but you've got to put the right booms in the right slots because they vary a little bit, And it was just a dangerous job because you'd have to walk out, when you put one hatch on, you have to undo the hooks to put the next hatch on. You have to walk out over this bloody great hole over the edge, and unhook the hooks.
The hooks were in the middle of the boat?
The hooks were on each corner. No, not the, I'm talking about a hatch now. The booms would just had 2 hooks on them, just dropped them in the
Yes,
slots.
I see, yeah.
And they were pinned.
And you put the hatch boards on.
Yeah, the hatch boards were made into slabs.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
had 4 holes, hook on each.
And you had to sort of,
Yeah, no, I used to hate that. Walk out and undo the hooks.
But you were walking out on the hatch covers themselves. You
That's
weren't just
right.
walking on the beat. But you
No,
were,
no.
But you had to lean over and get to that
That's
edge,
right.
so you were right on the edge.
So, but we had a ship called the Wyana that had 4.5 booms as well. Now they would
you put your rolling booms, you'd roll the booms, and they locked into place, you know. They all roll at one end of the hatch. Then you had 4.5 booms that had to go about a third of the way across.
Yeah.
And you had to get those booms in those slots
Before you could put your boards on.
before you could put your hatch boards on. You had to sort of sit on the boom and work your way out like a jockey, you know.
Tom says he can walk on it. I couldn't.
Oh, not me. I'm what's known as a penguin. I can't stand those heights.
No, I don't. Well, so when you were talking about the industrial relationships between the ship owner and the worker, you know, and how you had this constant sort of fight, you know, even if they had gloves, they didn't want to give them to you.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I wonder if it was anything to do with the fact that a lot of supervisors were ship's captains and that, you know, and they were used to giving orders and having people jump.
I think you might have something there, because I can remember several supervisors that every wharf was accused them of, you know, I think they were curly, not backwards curly through now, mate. You know, instant obedience at all times and all that sort of stuff, you know. I think that they really felt, you know, that we were sort of white coolies.
And also I wonder how if it's got to the fact, I was talking to Tom about this and he said, I said, why was there such a state of siege between ship owners and wharfies more than other work? And he said, well, they were bloody, they started off as pirates. And they made their fortunes in the India trade and the slave trade and the Africa trade and the China trade. So they never bloody changed. He said, you know, that's how they started off. He said, and they really, and I suppose too, that they were used to working with coloured labour a terrible lot. I mean, after the same ship that had been putting up with U-boats, they'd just come from Indonesia or China or India or somewhere where people were carrying coal on with their baskets, you know, and for $1 a day. You see, they really made their go. They established their methods of work in the colonies, no shipping company.
Yeah, that's true too.
No wonder, because you said somewhere else they hated us, that's why.
Yeah, well they did too. I still think they did. I think things have changed a bit now, a bit more enlightened, but...
Give them time, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, natural, isn't it? The nature of the beast is that your interests weren't their interests,
that's
were
right. They haven't changed at all, really. They've just got more urbane, polite and everything. They still say no just as loud, you know.
Yeah, Tom said that actually...
It's a little different now. They've got the government behind them with their... now, it's been said to me that we'd like to give you more, but it comes up against the government's policy
of wage ceilings.
Yeah, no, they call it
guidelines.
Guidelines.
The
it comes
arbitration.
up against the guidelines. So how they're getting around it, of course, is they're giving you a little bit extra phone money, a little bit extra laundry money, and a little bit extra dirt money.
In other words, you're getting it on the same as you did during the war. You weren't there, of course. You're getting it on conditions, not on pay.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But I'm always a firm believer in conditions anyway.
Too, yes.
I reckon conditions are as good as money.
There shouldn't be anything, in my opinion, there should be no such thing as danger money. Because it means that you're putting there shouldn't be danger.
Well,
there is another job. It's not
a long time since I've ever heard of anyone getting danger money.
Yeah, well, you know, there shouldn't be danger work for, like, for working in unpleasant or unhealthy cargoes. You should.
I can remember getting danger money.
Yeah, danger money is really an indication that the shop at ship owners, the workers are taking risks.
That's right. The working conditions are bad. Yeah.
I wouldn't let any of my family work in asbestos or uranium or anything for any amount.
We didn't know about asbestos. I can remember working in holes, bloody clouded. You know, the whole joint clouded with asbestos.
What were you doing? What were you doing?
Bags, just unloading bags of asbestos. You know?
Like what, asbestos dust or asbestos sort of fibre? You know, like as it had been.
Yeah, in bags from South Africa. You know, blue asbestos, just thrown it on it. We never had respirators or we used to get overalls on it, no gloves. But we never knew about it, asbestos coming back. I mean, I don't know how many it's affected, but...
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. And there's also things like, what was soda ash like? Do you ever work soda ash?
Oh, that was the worst bloody come from South Africa too.
That's caustic soda, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I think it is.
But as soon as you start to work it, my nose used to start to bleed. And all the time I'd work and you'd sneeze all the time, you know, because there was a cloud of the rotten stuff and it was heavy.
Bag job?
Bags.
Well, the same as flour or wheat? Was it as heavy as that?
Oh, it was just easy, yeah.
And were you carrying it on your back?
I never carried soda ash, no, we used to just put it in the slings, you know.
You were
They
slinging?
probably loaded it. off
You
the
were
back.
unloading.
We were unloading it, yeah,
So
never ever loaded
you
it.
weren't carrying.
No, never carried
Didn't
it.
you have to carry it into the square of the house or carry into the stack or whatever you do?
Usually it was just dumped in the square, you know.
Oh, I see. So you didn't have to carry too far.
I've never had to, you know, carry a bag of soda ash. But,
And it would burn your skin, wouldn't it?
I
got it wet,
I used to
particularly.
lose all the skin off my wrists and my hands all the time when I was working anything like that because I've got bad skin
You
anyway.
got red hair.
Yeah.
So you were breathing it in. Yeah, well, soda ash and lamplight seem to have been two choice ones.
It'd take you weeks to get it out of your system, you know. And you get in there and you put a clean shirt on, you'd scrub up, lovely, and it'd be coming out of you for weeks. Round your eyes used to look like Elizabeth Taylor, you know, with eye makeup, because it took that long to get away from your eyes, you know.
What?
It was easy work though.
It was not heavy.
No, lights.
Lamplight, but
Yeah.
the soda ash was heavy
And,
it was coming out through the sacking all the time.
Years no hooks, about 180 pound or something. Years no hooks. How the bloody hell are you going to pick it up?
When did you use a hook? Did you use a hook on flour and wheat and that sort of
Yeah.
thing? What, you put it in, when would you use a hook?
Only straightening at your back because you carried it anyway.
Then
And the guys on the stack, you know, you build a stack like that.
Yeah,
So
carrying height.
Right, and you get the bag and you go drop it down and straighten it up.
Oh, that was when you use your hook.
Fellas on the stack stand up the bags. So you,
Yeah. And let's drop them onto your back.
put them on your back.
And that was when did you use your hook?
When you were standing the bags up,
The man on the stack had used the hook.
that's right, yeah. And the
And
men on
when-
the wharf all the time because they would take them out of railway trucks.
And they were walking out of railway trucks.
You'd have a hook in one hand and get them here with the other. Here's your hooks all the time.
I see. So that's nothing no one's mentioned, that you're always hooking it out of, that's flour, wheat, and
Yeah.
you're hooking it out and using your hand on the ear and
Yeah.
one ear and hooking it with the other.
That's right.
And now the guys who are trucking it out here, if you were say doing flour, or who are in the railway trucks with little hand trucks, would they be using a hook to get down
Yeah.
onto their hand truck?
Yeah, just pull on with the truck. The hook.
Double hook, wasn't it? Or
No,
single
single
hook?
hooks. I
Right.
never ever used a double. They were called bag hooks, those double hooks.
Hmm.
But I never ever
Yeah.
saw anyone use one on the wharf. Truck drivers used them,
Did they?
you know.
So
those
you were
double
using a
hooks.
single hook with a
Just
wooden
single
handle?
hook, yeah.
Oh, I see. You have your own.
Preferably, preferably in
A McDonald's? MC or MAC?
MAC.
McDonald's. It's like trade union shears. They all have their favourite
Yeah, sure.
brands.
Yeah,
Oh, you were a shearer. No, the same goes with the old.
I was an insurance shooter.
Oh, yeah, that was after your time.
Yeah, I was in a shed once at a place called Penshurst Manor, where they were all old fellas. They were all over in their 60s. I was picking up,
Yeah.
you know. And they were stud sheep. They all were hand shearers.
Whereabouts was that?
Penshurst.
Where's that?
It's near Hamilton. the other side.
Yeah, I was staying after the war in a place up at out of Bendigo, where he scoured the country for blade shearers.
Yeah, they were all old fellas. You know?
Yeah, old blade shearers.
I remember one bloke, Sam McNaughton, I used to give him a haircut. $5 used to give him. I couldn't cut him his hair, you know.
With your shears?
No, it was I'll see him. Yeah, well, but they made me. I had a pair of army boots, and they made me a pair of bag boots because I made too much noise running up and down the board. It's quiet.
They put the bags over your boots. They
No,
make
made
moccasins.
moccasins out of
Out of bags.
wool caps.
I
you know,
wonder why do you wear a moccasin when you're shearing?
Oh, it's easier.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Moccasins, shearers moccasins put no wheels on them. You know, they're just straight
Yeah,
out.
but-
I don't know. I think you get a better firmer grip of the ground.
Because most other jobs you'd like a heel on your shoe.
Yeah, but you don't use them in shearing shoes. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know, it
It's
might be a
tradition.
traditional thing, you know.
Listen, it just seems to me, listening to these old boys talk about, especially bag jobs, you know, how they were, you know, the blokes are trucking them out with their little hand trucks and tipping them down, and they all, you know, fall just where you want, and you know, and sling them, and keeping up with the hook in the hole. But there must be tremendous sort of rhythm about them. They must have got up a, you know, it must have been like a machine.
Yeah, they were good. But everyone was, you know, those fellows down at Williamstown, when they were specialists, the hunts and all those blokes, pretty to watch with a bag, you know, they could do anything with it. They'd make curtains on brakes and tie bags and build a wall like a bricklayer, you know, they were beautiful to watch. Because they worked bags all the time.
Yeah, that was flour and wheat.
Flour and wheat, yeah.
And Williamstown was where most of the flour and wheat went
that's
from,
right.
was it?
Yeah, they were good, those blokes.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. It just seemed to me that, okay, you're carrying it, it's coming off onto the stack, you know, like, say you're loading it. Now they're taking it off the stack, putting it onto blokes' backs. I mean, you've got to keep up with the hook. The hook's coming in every 2 or 3 minutes.
That's right.
And so you're carrying, and if you're not back there, someone else is, you know, held up for their work, or someone's taking your bag. It must have been a tremendous rhythm about it.
Yeah, it was guys, I didn't mind those bag jobs. Actually, blokes my size are better carriers than the big blokes because we could soon, I don't know, we used to get the bag higher on our back, so I never had any problems with that.
Did you neck them or ask them?
No, I was a neck man. Because I couldn't place them at something else.
How was arsing done? I mean,
Well,
it looked
like
uncomfortable to me.
They-
What, crosswise across your butt?
No, the bags were straight up and you
Yeah.
grabbed it by the corners,
Yeah.
like that.
The bottom corner.
Yeah, bottom corners, and you just walked along like that. And
With
when
your
you
head-
came to the place on the step, you dropped
Backwards.
backwards, and I could never place them, so I used to neck them.
Yeah.
Because when I you know, I could
You
walk
take them across your neck,
across my neck,
crosswise.
yeah, that's right, and just walk up to the spot like that, and go, plonk.
Oh, and you drop them over your head.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That was
see.
easier.
Now, Bert King shouldered. No, Jack Bacon believes in shouldering it.
Yeah,
Now,
well, Jack was a shoulder.
How do you shoulder it?
You just grab the bag like that and sit it on one shoulder.
Across. Across like
That
a kid.
way, 4 and a
Across
half.
like a piece of wood, 4.5.
4.5, yeah.
You know, it took me 6 months to understand what Tom was saying when he says 4.5. My typist always writes it down as 4.5. And I went to tell what's all this 4.5 business?
That H just got him again.
That's right.
The bag points straight out away from you on the shoulder. You know.
And you carry it with
Just-
2 hands.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. Drop.
I
But I like them across my neck because it sat better. But when you've got a short carry, that was for a long carry. You know,
Yeah, how
like
much? Yeah.
Take 15, 20 bags back.
Yeah.
For a short carry, you could do them ass carrying, you know.
Yeah.
Because you just drop them.
And you drop them backwards.
Yeah.
And then would you have to straighten them up with your hook?
Well, if you could do them properly, you didn't carry a hook while you were
I
while you
see.
were carrying.
Mm.
You didn't have your hook. The only
No.
guys that had the hook were on the stack.
And they were sort of taking them off one thing, you know, they were, yeah.
So your hook just hung up because you had to take your turn on the stack because it was the worst job of the lot.
Was it?
Oh. You handle there's 2 of you and you handle say 15 bags. You're handling every bag you're handling. But the blokes that are carrying, they're only carrying like there's 6 of you carrying say 3 bags, 2 bags.
Would you ever get any time in between, or were you just keeping going steadily? I mean, for instance, do you ever have to wait at the hook, wait at the stack for a bag? Did you
Yeah,
sort of
because the carriers were usually quicker than the fellas on the stack because, you know, the carriers would be coming back.
You're getting a shorter and shorter carry all
That's
the time,
right.
aren't you? And the long one, you big
Yeah, and they're
bag,
still standing those rotten bags up, you know, and sometimes you'd be queued up
waiting for
waiting, you know, but everyone took their turn
Yeah.
because if they found one bloke that wasn't taking his turn, they'd all stand behind him. And they'd say, come on, what's going on? They'd all be standing behind the one bloke, you know. So he'd have to take his bag, then they'd all, you get into a pattern.
Yeah, I see. You're sort of just going round and round, like
Yeah.
almost like in a roundabout sort of
That's
thing.
right, it's as simple as ABC. But you had to take, see, in 4 runs, you got to turn on the stack. There were 8 men below, 6 carry and 2 on the stack. So in the 8 hours, 2 hours, you'd have 2 hours on that rotten stack where you handle all the bags.
Although Tom said in some ways they sometimes put the elder blokes on the stack because it was lighter work than carrying. Or would it not be? You don't agree?
No, carrying was easy compared to that stack. Because they never stopped to pull. Then when they'd come down, they'd hook on the empty rope. We had to go to the hook. They'd hook one on the wharf. That'd be there hanging.
How long would that take in between?
Look, a minute.
To to get the hook out and back again,
Yeah.
onto the wharf
That's
and back
right.
again.
Yes. They had them always, the blokes on the wharf worked hard too.
Yeah.
They had them made up ready. As soon as that had come out,
Oh, they had another sling ready.
there'd be one sitting up on the deck like that, waiting.
What do you mean sitting up, hanging above the
Hanging,
deck?
hanging over the deck, waiting for you to finish the one that's on the stack.
But you haven't got two hooks, have you?
No.
Oh no, it's been unhooked.
They unhook it,
Oh, of
put the
course.
empty rope on.
Yes.
It goes out, they take the empty rope off, hook it on, they bring it up and hang it on deck like that.
And
And then, but they're waiting on deck.
till you're finished under the hatch, till you're
That's
finished with
right.
that sling.
So, and then the end
I
It was
see.
constant work.
It wasn't a question of finish, take the hook out, put one on and come it back.
No.
They'd sent the hook back straight away.
That's right, the hook
They
had to go
uns-
out as soon as they unhooked that full sling. The empty sling had to go out.
That bloody hook must have dominated your life.
It did, it never stopped, it was red hot. They used to sing out that to me, dip it in a bloody drink, will you? You know,
It's red hot.
electric arms.
I see, so the hook, and of course the hook represented tonnage, didn't it?
Oh yeah,
And tonnage was the god, I suppose.
that's for sure, yeah. They used to come along and bus it, you know, that gang up there after 6 ton ahead of you blokes, you know.
Oh,
And
it's
they'd
the
say-
same the whole world. They do it
Yeah.
in factories when you're
Oh,
on the
yeah,
line.
I know, yeah. It's an old country, but you were expected to do over 100 ton every day. And it wasn't bad work really, bad cargoes, I didn't mind.
Yeah, as long as it wasn't unpleasant like as long as it wasn't the
Terrible,
soda ash.
That's soda ash. But I didn't like potatoes because
Lumpy.
I got a different hole in my back every time I carried a bag, you know, and another lot of bloody dents and
Sweet.
used to bruise me
Yeah.
because I got that bad skin, you know.
Yeah.
But I used to wear a carrying jigger for,
What was that?
I was just an old, used to use a plough bag.
Like the kids wore for raincoats in the country, made into a pixie hood.
That's right, yes, yeah. Because I used to tear skin off myself with potatoes, but it was wheaten, that's nice and soft. Wheat's quite good, it's a
Yeah.
bit heavier, it's a 30 pound heavier than flour, but it conforms to your shape.
There's a bit of, yeah.
Yeah,
And what about
yeah.
sugar?
No skin. It used to, when it came in, it was that hard. It was all right, it was loaded up there when it was damp. They loaded it in the rain, any bloody thing up there, and it was soft when they loaded it. But then you had to get brands, different brands, and you'd break in and you'd get a straight run of 16 bags. They used to put in a sling too. And they were hard as the hobs of hell, you know. And you'd pull them out the road and they'd go clunk, 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 like, and they'd fall on your toe and the skin would come off your fingers. They were that hard, you know. It was a shocking job, sugar.
Yes, someone else has said that. Tom says sides of beef, he reckoned, were the worst. Because you got a rotten floor, you had no floor.
Just have trouble with being no bigger than me. Sheep weren't bad because, you know, belly to belly, back to back, just the stone. You lie one thing and then lie the other one over with its brisket in there. And they used to look quite neat.
Snuggled in.
Yeah, yeah, nestled.
Yeah, and that was in the freezer.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of, I suppose you got a variety of work, that was.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't be on anything for too long, so you drove you crazy.
Well, sometimes you get in those jobs down the freezer for a big starter, and you'd be there 3 weeks, and you alternate between freezer, and then you fill up a deck with wool, you know, and then you'd be freezer with hooks and then you go to another freezer and fill that up. Rabbits with a big gallon those days.
How were they taken, in bags
You
or
know,
packets or
Boxes.
boxes? Yeah. so-
Millions of them in a tray. They were skinny box, you know.
Take some home?
Nah, not for me. Station pier. You had to go with them.
Really? Oh, it wasn't, the station pier was harder than other places.
Oh, yeah. Because you had to walk for a full concourse. You know.
They could see you
couldn't
coming.
get your car in.
Oh, so.
But in other places, but you know, pinch rabbits anyway. There was millions of rabbits in.
I used to know, bloke who used to work in the meatworks during the war, used to go to get you lamb's fries when no one else could.
Oh, yeah.
Lamb's
Oh,
fries and
right,
those
yeah.
things, yes. Lamb's fries were the thing.
Awful.
Awful, that's right. It was, when you couldn't get it, it's amazing how everybody wanted it.
It's marvellous. I saw a lot of cases going up the islands, the freezer, and those
Dutch boats, you know, offal not for human consumption. But I doubt what happened when they got there.
You weren't on the wharf when the Indonesian affair was on, were you? 49.
No.
No, when they had the strike over sending Dutch arms to Indonesia.
No.
No, I see. Yeah. This was interesting. Tom reckons, and John Morrison was saying, that the Wharfies were never what I'd really call politically educated. They were only interested in wages and conditions. Well, that doesn't seem to me to be right, because you couldn't have got a gang of teachers out over Indonesia, or no pig iron to Japan. I mean, they must have been more internationally minded than other people.
I think that the executives, the waterfront executives have gone politically aware, and they've sort of steered them into that.
But you couldn't do it if it wasn't there.
No,
I mean,
that's
you
true.
couldn't do it if there wasn't a willingness to do
No,
it.
that's right.
I don't think it could have been. I know, admittedly, well, first of all, it was against the ship owner, which was
Right,
something,
that's right.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's always a winner.
That's right, yes. So it's against the ship owner. And it was in favour of a trusted executive. I mean, you were following, say, someone like Jim Healy,
That's
who was
right.
giving you good advice. But the other hand, you see, I mean, Jim Healy wasn't a factor in the no pig iron for Japan business, because it was 37, he just got in. It was Ted Roach and Porter Campbell.
Right, sure, yeah.
And then he said, God,
It got its name the Whaler Moor. But when I could go, we could go on telling sort of tales like that forever, you know.
Because it's, you know, and at this time you were hard up for a job.
Oh, geez, needed it desperately. How many times did I come home